Shalom, King. How you doing, man? Got your mic off.
And during this thing, man, this thing getting draining, but hey, I'm gonna keep on pushing.
Come. Well, Shalom, Israel. Welcome to New Wine Congregation of Israel. We give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. All right, this is Law School. We're going to go ahead and get started. Before we do, we're going to send up some prayers. So, brothers, if you got your head covered, please uncover your head. And sisters, if you don't have your head covered, please get you something to cover your head. We can face peace and pray. King, you want to pray for us?
Yeah, Con, I pray. For sure. Most High Yahweh, I pray that you put the spirit of wisdom and understanding on the teacher tonight, Lord. I pray that it be edifying for the body, that we continue to grow. We thank you for today, and we pray that you forgive us for all our sins and shortcomings, Lord. We pray that you continue to draw the rest of the remnant of Israel land, that we may go home. And in Yahweh's name I pray. Amen.
All right, all praises to the Lord. All right, so let me share the screen. So this is Law School. All right, we in Deuteronomy chapter 23, which is an interesting chapter. There's a lot going on in Deuteronomy 23. Let me share the screen real quick. All right, so yeah, Deuteronomy 23 is a lot going on in here. So focus on the spirit, man. So let's start reading at verse 1.
All right, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23 and verse 1. He that is wounded in the stones or hath his privy member cut off shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord.
Right. So the Lord say, he that is wounded in the stones would be your testicles. All right. If you were wounded in the testicles, meaning you only had one testicle, or you had the testicles chopped off, or you had your penis chopped off, you cannot enter into the congregation of the Lord. So that would be what you would call a eunuch. All right, that man could not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Let me get that in Daniel. Yeah, Daniel 1 and verse 10.
20?
Daniel chapter 1 and verse 10, I think it is.
Yeah, that's it.
I bear my internet a little choppy, man. So, all right, yeah, let's read that. Let's start at verse. Well, matter of fact, let's start at verse 8.
Daniel 1 and 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself.
Right. So Daniel, he was being watched over by the prince of the eunuchs. All right. So let's keep going. Let me look up real quick. Yeah, let's keep going. It might not say that he was just a eunuch, right? But let's read on. Nonetheless, verse 9.
Verse 9. Now Yahweh had brought Daniel into favor, tender love with Now Yahweh had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs.
Mm-hmm. Read on.
And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king.
Right. So it's saying the reason why I went here is because it would allude to the fact that Daniel was a eunuch because the man that was watching him was the prince of the eunuchs. The man who was bringing him his food and such was the prince over the eunuch. So it doesn't say outright that he was a eunuch, but it alludes to the fact that he might have been more than likely, right? A lot of that was a custom. A lot of times we went into captivity. The well favored men, the intelligent men, um, they would they would they would a lot of times castrate those men to keep us in captivity who were in high positions who would be around the king's wives. They would castrate them a lot of times to try to make sure that they didn't lay with the women, right? The king's women, or that other women didn't want to lay with them, right? So that was a practice that was done a lot of times when we was in captivity. So nonetheless, it says that, and King, I think it's like a little feedback on your end.
All right.
Are you looking at it on two phones?
No, sir. I'm on one phone. Actually, I'm not sure why it's a feedback. I'm not sure. Is it still sounding like that?
Uh, nah.
Okay.
I think it's just when I talk. Hold on. Well, it's a little better now. So if we did whatever you did, I think it did help. So
Okay. I
quality.
just moved.
Okay, con. Yeah, it did. It did. It sounds a lot better now. Okay.
Okay.
So
Come.
nonetheless, yeah. If you were a eunuch, you had if you was wounded in the stones, you had your private part cut off. You couldn't enter into the congregation of the Lord, right? So let's read on verse 2.
Verse 2, or Deuteronomy 23 and verse 2. A bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord.
Right. So a bastard is an illegitimate child, right? A child that will be born of incest, right? When you go into the word, they tell you a mixed population, right? A mamzer is what it is in the Hebrew. A mamzer.
How
Don't
you
be no
spell that?
mamzer out here, man. M Mamzer. Mamzer. All right. So it's a bastard child of incest, illegitimate child. Bastard, mixed population. It says born of a Jewish father and a heathen mother, but we know and understand through the precepts. If you got a so-called, if your father is a Jew, then that child is a Jew, right? But on the contrary, if it was a like they say, or vice versa, that would actually apply. If the mother was Israel, but the child was not, that child is considered a bastard, right? A mongrel or what have you, or a child born from incest. So that's like Moab, right? With lots grandchildren. His daughters laid with him and produced Moab and Ammon, or Ben Amin, right? So those would be mamzers. They couldn't enter into the congregation of the Lord because those children are born from incest. All right, so that's what a bastard is. So let's go back. You close that. So it say a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even to his when it say even to his 10th generation, that means he's even then he still can't come. That means he can't come then either. That means he just can't come into the congregation of the Lord, and that'll make more sense as we read on down. All right, so let's keep going. Verse 3.
An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever.
You see that? So Ammon and Moab, their whole population is bastards because they came about through incest. Right? Matter of fact, let's get that account. Let's go to Genesis chapter. I want to say it's 15 or 16. Let me make sure. Oh no, I think it's 20. Salaki. I ain't got my Bible, man. I left my Bible somewhere.
Oh man,
I
somewhere
gotta
you don't
go
know
get
where.
that.
Oh,
I
you know
know
where it's
where,
at.
but yeah, I know where it's at. But hold on, let me bear with me. Uh, yeah, Genesis 19 and verse 30. All right, let's see how Moab and Ammon came. Right, so let's start there, verse 30.
The book of Genesis, chapter 19 and verse 30. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in a mountain, and his two daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, he and his two daughters.
Right, so this is after the destruction of Sodom, Gomorrah, and the three other cities that were surrounding them. Right, Lot and his two daughters escaped, and now they're in. His wife was turned into a pillar of salt, and now they're dwelling in a cave. They're living in a cave until they get resettled. Right, so let's read on. Let's see what happens.
And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth.
Right, so they was thinking in their mind, there's not any more young men around. They thought that in the whole earth there was no other men around, which was folly. Just 5 cities got destroyed, not the whole
Right.
earth, but to them in their simple thinking, it was like no other men around, right? So that was off. Let's keep going.
Verse 32. Come, let us make our father drunk with wine. Let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father.
Right, because the father is who preserves the lineage, because he carries the seed. Right, let's keep going.
And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose.
So Lot was so drunk, he didn't know that he didn't realize he was smashing his daughter, his firstborn daughter. You out of here, you don't know that what you're doing, right? So he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose, right? He was out of here. Let's keep going.
Verse 34. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said to the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father.
Right. So most people know when women are around each other, they cycles kind of sync up. Right. So these are sisters. They probably was on their cycle at the same time. They was ovulating at the same time. So they got pregnant at the same time. All right. That's how it was able to go down. They probably more than likely ovulating when they was like, let's lay with our daddy. Obviously they were, because they got pregnant. All right. So the second went in the next night and she laid with her dad. Right. Keep going. We're
Verse
gonna read all the
35.
way down.
Gone. Verse 35. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were they both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day.
Mm. All right, go ahead.
And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ammi. Is that right? Or Ben-Ammi?
Ben-Ammi, yep.
Ben-Ammi. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day.
So that's how you get your Moabites and your Ammonites. They come through incest. So they come from them as a bastard. So that's why the Lord is speaking the way that he is. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 23. That's why he say they can. And on top of that, further things happen. We'll go into that. But that's chiefly why they come from a bastard lineage. And it says a Ammonite and a Moabite can't enter into the congregation, even until their 10th generation shall they not enter into the Lord. And then that basically means forever. That's what that means. I don't care if it's the 10th generation. That's what he's saying, right? So they can't come in. Let's see why. Verse 4.
Verse 4, because they met you not with bread and with water in the way when ye came forth out of Egypt, and because they hired against thee Balaam, the son of Peor, of Bethor, of Mesopotamia, to curse thee.
All right. So they hired Balaam against us to curse us, right? Let's get that in Numbers 23. I really need another sword. Let's go to Numbers 23. Matter of fact, let me do this. Yeah, so Balaam was trying to curse us in the wilderness, right? Though, and Balak is the king of the Moabites, was the king of the Moabites at that time, right? So let's start at verse. All this is fire. Many verses.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't gonna read it all. Let's start at verse 1 and we'll get the sense.
The book of Numbers, chapter 23 and verse 1. And Balaam said unto Balak, build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 oxen and 7 rams.
Mm-hmm.
And Balak did as Balaam had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and a ram.
Mm-hmm.
And Balaam said unto Balak, stand by thy burnt offering, and I will go. Peradventure the Lord will come to meet me, and whatsoever he showeth me, I will tell thee.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And he went to an high place, and Yahweh met Balaam, and he said unto him, I have prepared 7 altars, and I have offered upon every altar a bullock and a ram. And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, return unto Balak, and thus thou shalt speak. And he returned unto him, and lo, he stood by his burnt sacrifice, he and all the princes of Moab. And he took up his parable and said, Balak, the king of Moab, had brought me from Aram, out of the mountains of the east, saying, come, curse me, Jacob, and come, defy Israel.
Right. So that was the plan, to curse Jacob. And Salakia, in the chat, is it still an echo? Y'all still hear an echo?
It's an echo on my end.
I think so.
I don't know what it is, but I don't want to ruin the video. I can mute my mic, King, and you can keep reading.
Okay, let's do that. Because I
Okay.
don't want to. Yeah, let's do that. The Water King. I'll just read it. All right, so it says, so that's what's going on. Balak took up a parable and said, he said to Balak, the king of Moab, have brought me from Aram out of the mountains of the east, saying, come, curse me, Jacob, and come defy Israel. So the issue was that nobody could come up against us, right? So they was like, look, the only way we can do it is by putting a curse on them, right? So let's keep going. It says, how shall I curse whom Yahweh have not cursed? Or how shall I defy whom the Lord have not defied? Right. So they understood we had the Most High God on our behalf. It says, for from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone and shall not be reckoned among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob? So at this time, we was really deep. We was starting to multiply, especially when you go into the beginning of the book of Numbers, right? They numbering all of the tribes, and all they numbering is just the able-bodied men, and it's like 600,000 of them, 50,000 over here. It's a bunch of us, right? And that's just the men 20 years old and upwards, right? So they like, who can count the dust of Jacob and number of the 4th part of Israel? You can't even number the 4th part of Israel, is what he's saying. Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my last end be like his. So he like, I ain't finna bother them folks, man. You see how many of them it is over there, right? So let's keep going. It says, and Balak said to Balaam, what hast thou done unto me? I took thee to curse my enemies, and behold, thou hast blessed them altogether. And he answered and said, must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord hath put in my mouth? So he like, look, I'm just telling you what the Lord said. You don't get mad at me. He like, but he carnal. He like, I sent you to curse them. But he's like, look, Balak is like, look, Balaam is like, look, I can't say nothing but what the Lord done put in my mouth. So it says, and Balak said unto him, come, I pray thee, with me unto another place, from whence thou mayest see them, that thou shalt see but the utmost part of them, and shall not see them all, and curse me them from thence. So he's determined to curse us, right? Let's keep going. It says, and he brought him into the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars, and offered a bullock and a ram on every altar. And he said unto Balak, stand here by thy burnt offering, while I meet the Lord yonder. And the Lord met Balaam, and put a word in his mouth, and said, go again unto Balak, and say thus. And when he came to him, behold, he stood by his burnt offering, and the princes of Moab with him. And Balak said unto him, what hath the Lord spoken? And he took up his parable and said, rise up, Balak, and hear. Hearken unto me, thou son of Zippor. Yahweh is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Hath he said, and shall he not do it? Or hath he spoken, and shall he not make it good? So he's like, look, whatever the Lord said is going to come to pass. The heathen even know this about our power, man. So how much more should we know it? Right? He said, behold, I have received commandment to bless, and he hath blessed, and I cannot reverse it. The lead, like, look, once the Lord put the blessing on these people, there's nothing you can do about it. I can't reverse the blessing from them, just like they can't reverse the curse from the Lord. So that tells us a lot through the Spirit, man. Our enemies always knew that when our power is on our side, nobody can do anything to stop that. Right? It says, he hath not beheld the iniquity in Jacob, meaning the Lord was pleased with us at this time, wasn't seeing no sin in us, neither hath he seen perverseness in Israel. The Lord, his God, is with him, and the shout of a king is among them. Yahweh brought them out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of an unicorn. When they say a unicorn, it's talking about a rhino. All right. It says, surely there is no enchantment against Jacob. Right. So another word for an enchantment is a spell, a curse. Right. People put in what they call it, voodoo on you. Those things work if you in sin. Right? Witches and warlocks are real out here, man. In 2024, he says, surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and Israel, what have Yahweh wrought? Right? So the Moabites was trying to come up against us. Right. That's why the Lord, and even when we was coming out of Egypt, they was trying to come up against us. Right. But that's just one account of where you can see that happening, that, man. The Salakia. The Lord said an Ammonite back in Deuteronomy 23, an Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever. Right. So, and a lot of time, man, we get on Esau a lot, man. We forget Moab and Ammon got a judgment too. Right. Their judgment is, let me get that. Hold on. All right, let me go to Psalms. 60. Psalm 60 and verse number 8. Right? It says, Moab, let me see. Yeah, verse 8. Moab is my washpot. Over Edom will I cast my shoe. Philistia, triumph thou because of me. Right? So he said here, Moab is my washpot, man. Washpot is something that you like. You wash it. It's like you. I don't know if y'all anybody ever been poor, right? You ever did what they call you wash yourself. You heat some water up and you kind of washing yourself off in a pot, right? That's what Moab is to them. He said, and over Edom will I cast my shoe, like you throw a shoe at a stop out of here. You throw your shoe at a dog, right? So that's how the Lord feel about these people, man. He said Moab is my washpot. Right, so let's go back, man. Deuteronomy 23. So he said they can't come into the congregation. I'm trying to bring a Moabite to the platform. They can't come. Ling can't come. All right. Go back. Like I said, man, my internet a little choppy right now, but y'all bear with me through the spirit, man. All right, yeah, there we go. All right, so it says, verse 3 again, an Ammonite, a Japanese person, or a Moabite, a Chinese person, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Let me see if I got this book. I don't know where that book is. I had a book. I must have left it somewhere else, but it's a good book. I think I gave you a copy of it. It's a good book that prove, and when next time I do story time, I go into it. But it's a good book, a secular source that prove that these people, that's the Japanese and that's the Chinese, right? But we'll get into that at another time. I say they shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever, right? Because they met you not with bread and with water in the way. And when you came forth out of Egypt, and because they hired against thee Balaam, the son of Beor of Pethor of Mesopotamia, to curse thee. So we just read that, right? It says, nevertheless, the Lord thy God would not hearken unto Balaam, but the Lord thy God turned the curse into a blessing unto thee, because the Lord thy God loved thee. Right, so they can't come in the congregation. Right, let's keep going. It says, thou shalt not seek their peace nor prosperity all the days forever. So we can't seek no peace from them, and we can't wish them well ever. Right, that's what the law say. It says, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, right? For he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou was a stranger in his land. So the word abhor means to hate, right? We're going to deal with this. All right. So do you have to hate a Edomite? The law say, thou shalt not abhor. It says to abhor, be abominable, to do abominably. In the ritual sense, ethical sense, to loathe, abhor, regard as an abomination. All right. To make abominable, do abominable. Right. Abomination is something that you hate, right? Or it's disgusting to you, right? So understand a few things. Let's understand a few things, right? Let's go to the book. Now, this is when we first came up out of Egypt. Now, when Jacob first encountered with his brother again, Esau, hey, they reconciled. Right, they met each other in a way and they reconciled. Even though Jake was worried, he was like, I don't know, I don't trust them. Let me divide my family up. Some of y'all go this way, some of y'all go this way. And when they met each other, they reconciled, right? But since from that time and from this time that we're reading right now, things transpired, right? Let me get this in the book of Amos. think it is 2. Yep, let's start here in verse 1. It says, thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Moab, and 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he burned the bones of the king of Edom into lime. Right. So when it say 3 transgressions, and for 4, that means 1 too many times. They went off 1 too many times. Right. So he says that's what he won't turn away the judgment of Moab for. Right. Let's jump down. Verse man, this is tough without your Bible. Is it chapter 3? Let me look at chapter 3. Matter of fact, let me get another precept. I'm gonna come back to that one. We go to Obadiah in verse 15. Right. So it says, for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink and they shall swallow down, meaning this judgment, and they shall be as though they had not been. Right. Talking about the heathen, they're going to be as though they had not been. It's going to seem like they were never here. Right. It says, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them. Now, why is the house of Esau going to be for stubble? Let's go up in verse 10. It says, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob. So what you got to understand is, when Babylon came, when the Lord said, don't abhor the Edomite, this is before Babylon came and put us in captivity. That's why the Bible called them the daughter of Babylon. Let me get that real quick, because they act like them. They helped them out when they came to besiege us. All right, Psalms 137 and verse 7. It says, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom. So here it's saying, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom. In the day meaning from this day, everything changed. From this day, they set themselves up for judgment and destruction. It says, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, or burn it up, even to the foundation thereof. Right. So the foundation thereof is the temple of the Lord. It says, O daughter of Babylon, who is Edom, the daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Right. So he says, let's go back now. This is what he means here when he says, for the violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. Thou shalt be cut off forever. Right. It says, in the day, the same day where David is talking about in Psalms, in the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captives his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even thou was as one of them. Right. So they was just like Babylon. They was acting just like Babylon when they did that. Right. They was helping them out. It says, but thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thou shouldest not have looked on the day that thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger. When we became a stranger, when we was in a strange land, hey, even to this day, when we in a strange land, they don't look to help us out like that. Right. You not saying that you might not run into an Edomite who might not do something for you, but as far as what the main thing, doing the main thing for you, which is giving you your world back, giving you your land back, they ain't gonna help you like that. They'll give you some money with their face on it, but they not gonna truly help you, meaning put you in your rightful position where you supposed to rule over them. They'll never help you like that, right? So it says, thou in the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. So they was rejoicing when Babylon was coming and taking us, right? When they was coming and raping our little daughters, right? Snatching little babies up against the stone. They was rejoicing in that day. It said, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest have not looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. Neither shouldest thou. See, he like, look, you crossed the line, Esau. When you cross this line, you sealed your judgment, right? You sealed it. It says, neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. So even the ones of us that was getting away, they was cutting us off. Oh, don't you think you got away? You can slit your throat, and Lord knows what else they was doing to us. But the point is, they was helping, and for that, in the day of the Lord, like it says here, when you get all the way down here, the verse 18, this is why he says, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them. So in order for us to be a flame and a fire and kindle and devour them, then it's gonna be some abhorring going on, right? The Lord gonna put a spirit on us in that day, not today, but in that day, to go out and get rid of Esau. It says, and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it. Now, son ain't speak it. The Lord spoke it, right? So, I mean, that's what it is, man. It is what it is. So let's go back. It says, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, right? So now that means you got to walk around every time you see an Edomite, you shaking the hand at them, right? Oh, is that what I want? Amos 1 and 11. Let me get that. I think that's what I want. The water. That's it. I felt like that's a spirit. I felt like it was in Amos, but it was one. It says, thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. Right? So there you have it. The water for that, King. The water. So that's that. I mean, the Lord said for one too many times, it's basically saying the same thing we just read in Obadiah. For one too many times, they broke that brotherly covenant with us, man. Right? And they shouldn't have done that, right? They shouldn't have done that. So that's their judgment now. And that's of the Lord. The Lord said it, not me. Right? So it says, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. Let this time the Lord say, don't abhor no Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian. Like I say, you ain't gotta, when you're in Walmart, you just shaking the hand, or the Lord put the spirit of zeal on you. You want to do that? Hey, do your thing. But you don't have to go throughout your day doing that, man. The Lord say, be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So you gotta live here for now, right? And it's a time and a place and a season for everything, right? So you ain't gotta walk around just beating up Edomites all day, right? You gotta use wisdom in this world as well. So he said, for he is thy brother, thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou was a stranger in his land. So the Lord, he's trying to teach us more than anything, more than it just being about them. He's trying to teach us to not have that spirit of vengeance. He's trying to teach us to have a spirit of forgiveness. Even though we get done wrong, we shouldn't just always try to get back. That's what he's trying to say to us, man. Let me get that in the book of Matthew. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 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 45. It says that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven, for he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. He say, for if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, right? Now our brethren is Israel, right? He said, if you salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so, right? So I mean, this thing ain't about, it's a time and a place for everything. It ain't always about get back. That shouldn't be on your mind 24/7. Esau and getting him back shouldn't be what's on your mind 24/7. What should be on your mind 24/7 is verse 48. Be ye perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. That's what should be on your mind all the time. Trying to please the Lord, not trying to the cut Esau and make Esau bend down and kiss the boot, man. The Lord gonna have a time for that, right? So let me get off of that and let's keep going. Verse 8, it says, the children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Lord in their third generation. So the Lord is telling us, he was like, the third generation of an Edomite, they could enter into the congregation, meaning they would have to at some point become a proselyte. They great a man's great grandchildren, if I'm saying that right, they could enter into the congregation of the Lord, is what he's saying, right? He said the children of them and the Egyptians as well, the Edomites and the Egyptians as well. It says the children that, so it's a different type of relationship between us and them than it is with Moab and Ammon, right? At least at this time, right? It says the children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Lord in their third generation. It says, when thou, let's keep, I ain't finna shift gear. He said, when the host goeth forth against thine enemies, then keep thee from every wicked thing, right? When the host goeth forth is when the death angel goeth forth, right? Because when you hear, and this me speaking as a man, when you hear about David going and slaying thousands of people, when you hear about Simeon and Levi going and wiping out a whole city, I'm led to believe they had the death angel on their side helping them do some of that, man. That's a lot of people for two people to just fight, right? So that's me, like I say, that's me speaking as a man, but nonetheless, he said, when thou goest forth against thy enemies, keep thee far from keep thee when the host goeth forth against thine enemies, then keep thee from every wicked thing, right? So when we as a large group went to fight, he said, keep thee from a wicked thing, because you would lose your battles if you didn't, right? You wouldn't be able to fight and win if you was in the midst of wickedness, right? He said, let's keep going. It says, if there be among you any man that is not clean by reason of uncleanness, that chanceth him by night, then shall he go abroad out of the camp. He shall not come within the camp. What's this talking about? This talking about if a man was to have what we call today a wet dream, right? If you was to have a wet dream, then you weren't allowed to come into the camp, right? Because you would be unclean. Okay, it says, but it shall be when evening cometh on, he shall wash himself with water. I touched on that a little bit when I talked about the Passover. When evening comes, evening is not when it's dark. That's not the evening. Evening is when the sun has started the process of going down. You got what you call several phases of what's called twilight. You got the civil twilight, which is like the first phase of twilight, or the first phase of the sun going down. You got the nautical twilight, which is when it's the first stars are starting to be visible, and then you got astronomical, or I think I'm saying it right, astronomical twilight, which is that period like right before it's like, okay, it's dark, but it's still a little bit of brightness. That's what you call the evening. Those are the phases of evening. right? It's because this is how you know it's a difference in evening and night. It says, but it shall be when the evening cometh on, he shall wash himself with water. So when the evening starts, you wash yourself with water. Then it's got this colon here to meaning I'm finna further explain. It says, and when the sun is down, when the sun is down, then that's when the sundown is not the evening. That's two different parts. We'll go a deeper dive into that, most high willing. But hopefully you understand. Evening is not sundown. Evening time is you can still see some light outside. Okay. Sundown is when it's like the sun is gone. You can't see the sun at all. Right. So it says but I'm gonna read it again. But it shall be when the evening cometh on, he shall wash himself with water. And when the sun is down, he shall come into the camp again. So when the evening he's supposed to be washing, when the sun go all the way down, he can come on in to the camp. All right, if you was to have a wet dream or something like that. All right, and yeah, we'll leave that right there. Let's keep going for the sake of time. It says, thou shalt have a place also without the camp, whether thou shalt go forth abroad. Right? It says, and thou shalt have a paddle upon thy weapon, and it shall be when thou wilt ease thyself abroad, thou shalt dig therewith, and shall turn back and cover that which cometh from thee. So what's this talking about? He's saying you need to have a designated place outside the camp where you use the restroom. You can't just be relieving yourself all over the camp. The Lord is a God of hygiene, right? He's a God of hygiene. Let me get that in the book of Psalms, chapter 19, right? In verse 9, it says, the fear of the Lord is clean. So if you fear the Lord, you're going to be clean. You're going to keep yourself washed. When you get unclean, you're going to wash yourself off. You're not going to just be going without bathing if it's within your power, right? You're going to have good hygiene to the best of your ability. When you fear the Lord, the fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgment of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. Right. So this is a law about being clean, man. The Lord say, thou shalt have a place also without the camp, whither thou shalt go forth abroad. Right. And thou shalt have a paddle like a little shovel upon thy weapon. And it shall be when thou ease thyself, if you defecate, right? Or if you understand what I'm saying. Number two, if you do that, you got to dig a hole. Don't just leave it just on top of the ground and flies flying all around it and people stepping in it and spearing it. The Lord don't deal with that. That's nasty, right? That's nasty. You got to have a special spot where you do that at. And it says, and thou shalt turn back and cover that which cometh from thee. You got to dig a hole and cover it up, right? So this is something good to know for tabernacles. You don't just boo-boo all in the woods if you ain't got no bathroom right there, right? You put it somewhere, you put it in a hole, right? You put it in a hole, man. Why? It says, verse 14, for the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp. Hey, I was going to bring that out at camp, man. Most high willing, I see y'all brothers at camp. That's a mighty precept. For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy. You got to keep the camp holy, man. And what make you holy? Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 7. We got to keep the camp holy. Romans, chapter 7 and verse 12. All right, it says, wherefore the law is holy and the commandment holy and just and good. So we keep the camp holy by following the commandments, by keeping the law, right? And we can't have no nastiness going on in the camp, in the literal camp, or when we at camp, when we bringing out the word, right? It's got to be clean, man. The fear of the Lord is clean. It says, let me read it again. For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee, and turn away from thee. Right? So the Lord will turn around. He see a big smoking, sizzling turd on the ground, man. You can't do that. Right? Let's keep going. Thou shalt not deliver unto his master the servant which is escaped from his master unto thee. Right? So if you had a servant that was escaped from his master, you couldn't just give him up. Right? What you had to do instead, he says, he shall dwell with thee even among you in that place which he shall choose in one of thy gates, where it liketh him best. Thou shalt not oppress him. Right? So you know this is talking about Israel, because you can oppress a heathen all day, but you can't oppress your brothers or your sisters. Right? It says he might have escaped from his master for a reason. His master might have been mistreating him. Right? If he was doing what the law said, hey, he wouldn't have no reason to be trying to escape, right? He shouldn't, because you're supposed to treat your brother, if they in a position of servitude to you, you're supposed to treat them good. You're supposed to pay them, you're supposed to feed them, you're supposed to treat them like they yourself, right? According to the law. And we went over that numerous times before, right? So if he's escaped from his master, it must be some folly going on, and you can't give him up to his master. You gotta search out the matter, and you can't oppress him. You gotta let him stay where he want to stay, right? So let's keep going. It says, there shall be no whore. So the word whore is in the Bible. Can't be no hoes of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the son of Israel. Can't be no homosexuals, no what you call faggots of the sons of Israel, man. Can't do that. No hoes and no faggots in Israel. You can't do that. There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. Right? Because why? Because we are army. That's what the Lord said. We are army, man. So we gotta move as such. Right? You can't do that. That's plain. Thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore. Right? You can't bring no, you've been pimping, and you can't bring that money that you made from pimping, right? Or the price of a dog. When they say a dog here, it's talking about a heathen. You can't take the money that you made from selling a heathen into the house of the Lord thy God for any vow. For even both these are abomination unto the Lord thy God. So the Lord said, you can't take that for a vow. Right? You can't bring that into the house of the Lord. That's not clean money. That's what you call filthy lucre, right? It says, thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother. You can't take interest out on your brother. Usury of money, usury of victuals, usury of anything that is lent upon usury. So you can't profit off of your brothers and sisters. If you loan a brother $500, you can't be like, yeah, I need 8 when you bring that back. Nah, that's off. You can't do that. All right. It's got, if you lend them 5, he's supposed to be able to bring you 5 back. Better, yes, better to just let them have it if you got it, to let them have it. Right. But if you can't and you need it back, you can't charge interest. It says, unto a stranger, what? Unto a stranger, boy, that word stranger. Let's go into that. Let's see what one that's talking about. Nikari. Right? Foreign, alien, foreign, harlot, unknown, familiar, acting like they don't know. Outlandish, strange, right? So outlandish, we know that to be when Solomon dealt with outlandish women, as we're talking about heathen women, right? So unto them, what? Let's go back. Much time? I got 5 minutes. He said, unto a stranger thou mayest lend upon usury. You can tax the out of a stranger. But unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all that thou settest thy hand to in the land whither thou goest to possess it. So you can tax them. You could make it so they never pay you back, right? So you got to understand kind of mindset we got to get back into, man. Hey, you can make it so that the heathen never get out of debt from you. Ain't that what they do to you? You never really own that house. You never really own that car. They can always come and take it if you just go off a little bit, right? And we got to start getting like that, getting back in this mindset with them, right? You can tax them. You can, hey, even when it comes to stuff like what when the Lord say don't steal, right? The Lord told us many times, hey, go over there to them heathen and take everything they got. That's stealing. I'm not trying to tell you just go. Never mind, we'll keep going. Hey, it say verse 21, when thou shalt vow a vow unto the Lord thy God, thou shalt not slack to pay it, for the Lord thy God will surely require of thee, and it would be sin to thee. So when you vow a vow to the Lord, you got to keep that vow, right? But if thou shalt forbear to vow, it shall be no sin in thee. If you don't make a vow, it's not a sin, is what that's saying. That which is going out of thy lips, thou shalt keep and perform. So watch your mouth. Be careful what you tell the Lord you gonna do. If you tell the Lord you finna take a vow of a Nazarite, then you need to keep that vow, right? That's an example. That which is going out of thy lips thou shalt keep and perform, even a free will offering, according as thou hast vowed unto the Lord thy God, which thou hast promised with thy mouth, right? Every idle word. And when thou comest into thy neighbor's vineyard, then thou mayest eat grapes, thy field at thine own pleasure. So that's like if I go to one of the brothers' house, say he got a plum tree, right? I can pick plum. He gotta let me pick plums off his tree and eat it if I'm hungry, right? It's nothing wrong with that, right? It says, but thou shalt not put any in thy vessel. I can't just get a bag and start just putting plums in the bag. That's off, because now I gotta pay him for that. But if I just want a snack, we just out there, we kicking it, and he got a nice little situation going on, I can pick a grape off the vine and eat it, right? It says, when thou comest into the standing corn of thy neighbor, then thou mayest pluck the ears with thine hand, but thou shalt not move a sickle unto thy neighbor's standing corn. How much time I got? So this right here, let me see. This law is an example. Let me get it. Yeah, let's go to the book of Matthew. This is an example of what we're gonna read in Matthew chapter 12. They accuse Yahweh Shah of breaking the Sabbath, him and his disciples. The Pharisees did, but they weren't breaking the law at all, right? Verse chapter 12 and verse 1, it says, at that time Yahweh Shah went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were hungry and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. So we just read in the law, you can go in a cornfield and pluck the ears of corn. It says, but when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. So they just straight up lied on him. This is in the law. When thou comest into the standing corn of thy neighbor, then thou mayest pluck the ears with thine hand, but thou shalt not move a sickle unto thy neighbor's standing corn. This is what they was doing. They was plucking it off and eating it because they was hungry. It says, but when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. But when he said unto them, have you not read what David did when he was a hunger, when they that were with him, how he entered into the house of Yahweh and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests, right? So Yahweh Shah cut him, right? Which he did so many times, right? But you can see the Pharisees, they were just going off, man. They were just making accusations, just bearing false witness on him and the disciples, when the law clearly say what they was doing was lawful, right? So that's why we got to be in the spirit of the law. That's why we got to know the law. All praises to the Lord that we got law school, so you can know when you're going off and when you ain't, right? So all praises to the Lord, man. So that's the chapter. I'm gonna wrap it up right there. A couple things I did want to say. Passover is coming up tomorrow at evening. Buy your lamb. Tomorrow at evening is time to get your lamb, right? That will be the 10th day of the month. Time to get your lamb. Passover is the 7th at sundown, right? If you want to come to Passover, I want you to RSVP. All right. If you want to come to Passover, please RSVP. Call or you can text the congregation phone number. If you don't have the phone number, it's in the about section on the YouTube page. You already on the YouTube page. If you're watching the class, you you say the done away with. But yeah, if you don't have a phone number for the congregation, it's on the YouTube page, right? So go on there, get the number, shoot us a text, tell us your name, how many in your family, and that you want to come to Passover. Okay, so we can kind of get a number. And as for the lamb, buy your lamb tomorrow and season your lamb. Okay, you season your when at Passover, all we gonna do is just put it on the grill for you. We not there yet. You know what I'm saying? Most High willing, we'll get to where we just kind of take up some money and we just purchase lamb for the congregation and who all gonna come, and we'll have it planned out months ahead. But y'all bear with us. Stay tuned, and it'll get better and better and better, most High willing. All right, but for now, you season your lamb, all right? Salt, bitter herbs at the most. Don't go crazy with it. You got to get your bitter herbs, lamb. Bitter herbs will be arugula, dill, parsley. Those are some examples of bitter herbs. Let me get it while I got the screen up. These are some examples of bitter herbs. I want them to dandelion. You probably don't want that, but that's a bitter herb. Hold on, I want more of a list. Let me see. Bitter herbs list. Dill, like I said, dill, arugula, parsley. Those are some bitter herbs you can find in the grocery store pretty easily, right? And unleavened bread. That's the menu, and wine. Typically it's got to be a kosher wine. So Manischewitz, Mogen David, right? Am I right? Let me know in the chat some wine. I think definitely Morgan David. I mean, definitely Manischewitz, right? It's like you can get a big bottle for like $12, if I ain't mistaken, unless that done doubled too, right? But that's what you want to bring. Every household don't gotta bring a bottle of wine, but if you want to contribute a bottle of wine, that'll be good, right? So get your lamb tomorrow. Season your lamb how you want it. Get enough lamb how much lamb you know your house want to eat. All right, and that'll be good. I think that's it. As far as announcements, unless the Lord give me something else right now, I think that's it. Most High willing, man, this was edifying. Y'all got something out of it, and I'm gonna say shalom.